Welcome to Building Inclusive Digital Communities with Josh Hotsinpiller and Megan Martin. Discover how that human connection actually accelerates business objectives. Get ready to transform and grow.
Ryan, what's up, man? How are you?
Pleasure. I'm doing well, Josh. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for your time. And it's been fun to catch up quick. And I love that we're both talking about the future of work and life. Dude, give us the 30 seconds on Chameleon and why it's the future of work. I'll talk a little bit about Juno and why it's the future platform. And then we're going to talk about what it looks like in the future to interact with one another.
Yep, sure. So I'm part of a group called the Chameleon Collective. We're a flat organization. We're all virtual. And quite senior, either practitioners, so CMOs or chief revenue officers of companies, or myself that comes from like a management consulting footprint. And so basically, we have senior partners or people that just got tired of working for large organizations and the bureaucracy. And to me, like I was in Japan and I was a managing director at PwC, and honestly, it was just so much of it was administrative and dealing with, trying to bring resources. And so I just became so removed from the work and the clients that I just really wanted to get back at that,
right,
at the working level. And so we've created a model where we all have our own organization and we go to market together. And so we all have our different skill sets. So whilst I lead the customer experience practice and I'm standing up our capability around customer experience and design, someone else might be a copywriter, someone might be like a creative director, or someone might be like the expert on this industry. And so we'll bring those people into projects and we'll scope it with the clients and we'll just say, hey, we've got a SWAT SEAL team. You're in San Diego, so you should
SEAL team. There you go. Yeah.
Team 6 of like some really talented, senior practitioners and stuff. Can we just drop in and get this project done? Because, usually, I don't know if you know how familiar you are, Josh, with like the management consulting model is generally the partners and the managing directors will sell the work, and then they'll put like some senior associates on it that actually grind through and execute. But we cut out that middle part, so we don't. So the value goes directly to the client, and we're not charging exorbitant rates, so we can pay for corner offices on Madison Avenue.
Exactly. Yeah. What I like about what you guys are doing, I like about what we're doing, is we're reimagining the future and saying, wait a minute, there's so much waste. There's so much. There's so many layers. Yeah. And the future world is not tolerant of waste, layers, and what we're going to talk about today, even just about being inclusive and saying, wait a minute, who are you really, and what do we have in common? What is the let's cut the junk out. And so one thing I want to talk to you about is talk to me a little about inclusivity and how important that is in the future world, why it's important, how you see that in the future.
Well, I think as we were talking a little bit before this, Josh, is so I spent most of my professional career overseas. So I was almost I think 12 years in Japan, 5 or 6 years in Shanghai and in China, 4 or 5 years in Singapore. So, it's, a lot of people in America, we're all Americans, but when you're overseas and you're dealing with, your colleagues could be from all over the world, and you have multiple languages, you have people that are have come from different backgrounds, they've got different educations. It's just the spectrum of capabilities and perspectives and insights is so broad that, in the spirit of design thinking, we want to channel all of those just divergent perspectives and experiences to come up with a solution to solve like the world's complex problems of today, because that's what you need. You can't have a bunch of people that all went to Harvard and that all are from the Northeast, and basically they all, they all
think the same, and
they all played lacrosse together. Yeah, that's not going to solve the world's problem.
No. Hey, tell me something super interesting that you learned that shaped your life from working overseas. Maybe it was a conversation you had, maybe it was a cultural aspect, something that just shaped you.
I'm good. I'm lucky to be good with languages. And so luckily I speak business level Japanese, I speak Mandarin, I speak Nepali, and for me, just learning other languages, all of a sudden it's a whole new frame of mind in terms of how you deal with people. It it almost sets you down a couple notches and just being more humble, being more open to, this person's first language is not English, or this person, I understand, for example, that, Japanese, the sentence always ends in a verb. So that's why it's difficult for them to maybe process what it is that I'm saying, because it's very much a planned sequential language. So, I mean, just that mindset and being able to understand how people think and how they communicate and how they do things based on language, for me has been a real eye opener in terms of, speaking slower, or, rethinking, just because I know something doesn't mean it's correct. Right. And so thinking about the different perspectives. And I think that's a big step in terms of being more inclusive and helping people feel welcomed and valued.
It's funny, I have two boys, and I don't know, maybe it was, a year ago, whatever it was. And we were talking to somebody and they had broken English. And my son said, man, he doesn't speak very good English. And I don't know if he was Latino or what it was, but I said, well, how's your Spanish, buddy? Look, and I was like, his English is a lot better than your Spanish. And it's that perspective. And you could tell for him, he's just a kid. He didn't know. And he's, now I get it. And I think that is the whole thing of like, and I think that's a huge part of inclusivity is oftentimes folks like to look at what they're good at and compare it to what somebody else is, and you're like, wait a minute. Part of being inclusive is seeing the holistic dynamic of another human being and going, I may have you on this, but you're excelling at that. And I think in society, there's always like this is how we do it. And so then we all get, judged against that. But I think that to see that broader picture of the person's story allows us to start with that inclusive spirit in mind.
This is how we do it, right?
Exactly. So
you think about the U.S. Is it's so diverse, and they've got all these people in here. But I mean, everyone like forces people. It's like, hey, speak English. You're in America. It's like, I lived in Singapore, which is one of the most diverse countries in the world, and you walk down the street and you may hear like 6 or 7 languages before you even get to the coffee shop or something like that. I mean, just people are more respective and value people from other cultures, and it's just like, hey, we're a melting pot.
Exactly.
U.S. they say they're a melting pot, but I mean, really, you've probably seen it yourself, Josh. There's a lot of other countries that are really diverse as well. So,
I mean, it's some of the greatest perspectives I've had. I mean, one of the biggest ones that I ever had was going to Jerusalem and seeing this moment where 5-6 core religions are descending on each other, and every one of them is equally passionate about their for sure belief. And you're walking through this corridor of Jerusalem and you're going, okay, there's the Muslims, the Christians, the Catholics, the Greek Orthodox, and you're going through all of it going, whoa, like, man, this is mind bending. And you come home and you see somebody with a binary way of thinking and you just go, you got to get out and see that the world is very dynamic. I mean, it's very dynamic.
Yeah, I know. I've been fortunate to travel to Israel and that part of the world as well. It's amazing. You go to like places like, I've been to, deep in Jordan or I've been to Lebanon and stuff. And I mean, you meet these people and they've just got so much information and they're so knowledgeable about, the US and their politics and stuff. It just blows your mind. They're like, oh, this is when this happened in 1984. The U.S. did this. I'm like, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
I'm like, I just got schooled. Right.
Yeah. So one of the things we're talking about is building an inclusive, community, even online. We've talked a little bit about the importance of and the value of having it inclusive. I mean, you have perspective, you have other people's talent. Let's get this a little bit next level. We spend so much of our life online.
Yeah.
Spend so much of it. How can people be more inclusive digitally? Like, how do we use digital tools to increase our inclusivity?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's accelerated it a lot, right? And so we've had, pandemic has really forced people online and forced new ways of collaboration. I've been lucky, to be a part of a couple organizations and worked with teams that are really at the forefront of building these platforms. And, you have, things like Figma and Miro and Mural and all these things that basically designers get together and that's something working in Singapore and Asia. You've got people from all over the world that are on the call and that people are collaborating and things like that. And I think building those offering those opportunities for people to be heard, give them time to share their opinions, just being, really open to that way of working, I think is it's half the battle. And if you can make people feel like, hey, I'm going to jump on this call and I'm actually people are going to ask me questions and they won't actually want to hear what I have to say. I mean, that goes a long way in people feeling valued and included. I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Is people want to feel valued, and being included feels like I bring value to the conversation. I bring value to the project. And so, that should be the forefront of anyone's mind that's working with diverse teams.
It's interesting to think about the power of believing that somebody else has value. And it sounds so obvious, but so many people love to hear themselves talk, and they love to make sure they're heard. But that's really because they don't know if they're being heard. They don't know if they're being valued. I was on with my CFO yesterday working on something, and I was going through this slide that I put together. And he scanned it, and I was starting to explain. He's like, yeah, I get it. And I was like, I actually told him, I was like, I'm super appreciative that you cut me off because you got it, let's go. And I was telling him how often you're going through something and somebody's just like, won't stop talking. Yeah. And you're like, dude, I got it. But the reminder is people talk until they feel heard, valued, seen. And so I think the more you can go, I know you've got something incredibly important to share. You instill that confidence in them so that they're not having to create the confidence in real time, I think is a great first step to inclusivity.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of junior consultants that they just want to go through the slides, right? They want to go through every slide and explain it because they're probably up late last night, putting together the deck and stuff. They want to make sure they go through every piece. And it's just like, hey man, we trust you know this stuff. We got it. Just give me like the gist of what you're saying.
Exactly.
That was a really senior thing. I thought it was a disrespectful thing to do, but now that maybe I'm on the other side, I just say like, yeah, let's make a more efficient use of all of our time. I totally value that. That's why we're having this conversation, but let's move forward,
Exactly. So what are some ways that your company is creating more of an inclusive culture? Obviously, it's a horizontal footprint, which is amazing, but what are just some practical ways you guys exercise and think about inclusivity?
I think, we make it a practice of, when we'll have our company meetings that we have breakouts, and we're always having breakouts with new people. And so we're really, people that are maybe less, they're not as outspoken, or they maybe people that have different ideas. We're just making sure that everyone has an opportunity to work with of different people. And so we'll give them, maybe a task. Why don't you guys work through this idea or this new challenge we have? And then everyone, can come together and share back. And certainly I do it. And I make a practice of other people on the team that I just try to lead by example. But, certainly when they share back, someone who's not the person who's usually loud spoken and stuff, give them opportunities to talk and share as well. And then say, hey, Josh, we haven't heard your ideas. Why don't you tell us about what your team talked about and stuff. And so I think those are some small tactical, things that we do. But I think, we always try to encourage people to work with people that they haven't worked with before as well. And so, certainly when I'm looking to put people on projects or have a project where I need help, I'll either look for people that I haven't worked with or just giving other people opportunities to contribute as well. So I think, involvement, engagement are probably pretty.
We've had a blast at Juno. We'll do, whether it's different people on projects, like you said. I mean, I've recently worked on a project with 3 people that work for us that I'd never met. A, we were remote. B, our worlds weren't colliding. And one individual I met, just a phenomenal contributor, and came on board and just blew my mind. I probably would have not met her, except for the project that we were launching, I was piloting. And so I was like, hey, can you guys assign me a team? I got a team, and I'm like, I didn't even know them. And it's been incredible. And now there's a relationship there. And then the other thing we do is randomize just like chats. And so it's like, hey, you're going to chat with these 3 random people after our all hands team. So you meet folks you never met before, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, good to meet you. This is so cool. And so I think allowing the opportunity for new exchanges goes a long way. And then the things I've learned, they learn. It's so huge. It's so huge.
No, that's a really good point. And something that's kind of a revelation that I've had recently, Josh, is just that when you're working with someone, let's say you're working with on a project and it's like, well, that person doesn't talk a lot, or that person, I used to think about, well, that's, why are they not talking? Why are they not contributing? Maybe they don't know their material or something. But now I've certainly felt like it's on me now. I feel like it's on me. It's like, maybe, either I'm not giving them the right environment so that they can contribute, to feel like so they can feel comfortable, or maybe my instructions or the instructions of the activity or the project were not clear enough. And so it's on me. So why didn't I do a better job of empowering them to speak up?
I always think to myself, is this person that I'm getting the same person that they are if they were with their two best friends? That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. And I always think, I'm like, I wonder if Jill or Tom or whoever was hanging out with their buds. Yeah. Are they this bashful? Are they this reserved? Or are they silly and fun and like vulnerable? And I always literally think about, like, is this person being who they would be with their buds? Because I want to create that kind of safe place for them to be that person.
Yeah, that's a great perspective or tool to use.
Yeah, it's been good. Dude, I love what you guys are doing. With Juno and with Chameleon, I think brands that are continuing to push the value of a human voice, the value of a human skill. We are equal as long as we're being equal, right? I always say that too. Like you got to show up. Like I'm sure at Chameleon, like, look, it's a horizontal deal, but everybody's got to show up. Like there's no free, we're all here to help each other, but like we gotta, and I think the more that we can get the best out of people and honor people, hold people accountable too, like bring that together, I think you can really get some great outcomes with groups and people.
Yeah, I think a little bit of magic that comes with our model is that everyone has their own company, right? Mm-hmm. Their own personal LLC or S Corp. And so it's unlike a big organization where you can kind of hide out and you can kind of like,
that's good.
It's like, hey, well, if you don't want to be involved in the meeting or you don't want to contribute, it's on you. I mean, you got to pay, you got to probably figure out some way to bring home the bacon, so to speak, right? So everyone's motivated by that to at least bring their A game every time they're on the call,
Yeah. And I would just encourage anybody watching this. I mean, make that your life perspective. I mean, if I can't show up here and bring my A game and treat this like my own gig, go find somewhere that you can, because life's short and you're not promised tomorrow. And you got to make sure that, man, I really enjoyed today and I gave my best. That's a great word.
Well, I admire a lot that you've done a lot of great stuff, Josh, and I admire everything that it seems like you're in a good place, and Juno seems like a great platform, and it seems really purpose driven, which I think is good. And, we need more organizations that are out there to solve the world's problems, and so kudos to you for that.
Thank you, man. Hey, I appreciate your time, dude, very much.
Yep.
Cool.
Talk soon. Thank you.
Right on, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us. Let this story inspire you to the serious work needed to build an inclusive digital community that makes a difference for your network and your brand. For more conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to the show at junolive.com/podcast. Don't forget to share this show with your network so we can all learn from each other how to build inclusive communities. We'll be talking more about this episode on LinkedIn, where you'll find us under Juno Live. See you on the next episode.